Okay, so this point is in relation to what it means to take responsibility for everything here, everything that is here. If you read the material from Destiny and watch the videos, this point is brought up quite often, this point of taking responsibility for everything. And this sometimes becomes misinterpreted, um, where people say, why am I responsible for the wars that go on, or um, starvation or poverty, or the child that's being abused? And um, one aspect of this is actually haters will use this against Destiny, saying, oh, they're going to make you feel guilty for everything that's going on in the world, and if you want to be a part of their group, you have to feel guilty for this and that. But that's not what taking responsibility for everything is. So I just wanted to kind of make that clarification. Um, so, what does taking responsibility for everything that is here means? I mean, for me, I just simply see it as what, what can I do to support if there is something like war going on, or poverty going on, or there's the example of the child that dies due to neglect of the parents. And from a certain perspective, we allowed that because of our acceptance of the current system in the way that it is, and the current behaviors of individuals, and how we've allowed ourselves to interact with each other, and within that, not interact with each other and allow such abuse of life to happen right underneath our noses, yet kind of shield ourselves from taking responsibility for it. And so it's more of a taking responsibility for everything that is here is more of, I guess, a realization that I can see for myself how I am responsible for that child that dies due to neglect of their parents. Um, Now, I may not be directly responsible, but I can see how I am tacitly allowing such a point to exist through my day-to-day behavior and how I participate um, with individuals. I mean, I remember, my experience on the Destiny farm was quite cool, and my experience with Destiny is quite cool from the perspective of the experience of support that I have had from uh, different beings uh, while I was on the farm, and just through the internet participating with Destiny, and that kind of environment of support through communication and interaction with each other is fascinating, because it opens up uh, a realization of what's possible and how so much abuse can be prevented simply through our basic day-to-day interactions and communication with each other, where our starting point is support, where we're looking at how can I support this being, which in whatever point is there to support, versus our current accepted and allowed behavior in this world, which is how can I compete against this being, how can I win against this being, how can I look cool in front of this person. Um, I mean, there's this point of sarcasm that exists within our communication at this stage that I find within, I mean, Western culture, anyways. And it doesn't create anything of any substance. It creates, from my perspective, more abuse, more avoiding responsibility, and it's become this big joke. And so, I mean, just observing the two different sides of what it means to participate and interact with human beings from the starting point of support, where each one is taking responsibility for themselves and for others and their environment, versus communicating and interacting in a very disinterested way, where you don't really care about the other person, and that point of support is not actually there and is not actually understood and in place. And within that kind of interaction, you end up with people that neglect their children. And so, from that perspective, I realized, shit, you know, I am responsible for that child because, um, I mean, looking at how my interaction could have influenced, had an outflow, um, and many people interacting in a way where we're supporting each other actually outflows to create more responsible human beings. And I mean, I just look at my participation in my life and see, shit, I've participated from the starting point of competition and winning and not support for a very long time. So, I mean, just in that point, I can see one aspect of how I'm responsible, and there's many more. So it's just a point of realizing, uh, I mean, for me, looking at there's lots of different ways that I can take responsibility to prevent such abusive um, things from happening. So it's not about, oh, they're gonna make you feel guilty about, you know, all the bad shit that's happening. It's a point about realizing that we can actually make a difference in terms of how we shape ourselves and shape society, and at the same time we've accepted and allowed ourselves to shape murderers and rapists and corrupt politicians. So it's not a point of blame either. It's a point of bringing the point back to self, I guess, and just looking at yourself in terms of correcting yourself and creating a world and acting in a way which is going to create a world of support instead of abuse.